Oh, I did want to just play measure 51 to 52 for me, please. Just that. Yeah, it sounds like, you see, can you give me the drop and roll through the rolled chord? You're doing it so fast, it reminds me, every time you do one, every time the pianist does something, it can remind the listener of something else. This one sounds like you're cracking the whip the way you do it. Can I hear it like you have a pretty little dove that's sitting in your lap and you're stroking its back? Your dove still flew away.
Do you want it to go slower though?
I want it to be gentle. And then you can make the top note a little louder, but it's not a race. Yeah, so you could go slower. That's one way to do it. That way, it did come out, it was bright at the end, which is good. But you see, the point is, you're at a point right now in this piece, it's very exposed. So, again, you know, this is the place you don't want somebody to cough in the audience. This is like, this is like the culminating moment, and the birds have all settled down and they're ready to hear the sermon. You know, we don't, it's pretty. You know. So what I heard from you was like splat. It was like aggressive. Maybe you don't feel aggressive, but it's coming off that way. This pianissimo, gentle, sforzando, slowing down. Okay, that's already better. I thought your sermon part this time was not as good as before. I don't think it's hard to fix, but it got me, as usual, got the wheels turning for me. Whether it's useful or not, I don't know. But you maybe, I don't know if this is supposed to be the sermon to the birds, right? Now, what on earth are you going to, first of all, the question is, what's a sermon? And the second is, what are you going to say to birds? So I do think remembering about Francis is useful here, because I don't know what kind of sermons you're familiar with, but there are some kinds of sermons where basically all you're hearing is, you're a bad person, God hates you, you're going to fry in hell. That's not the kind of sermon we have here, okay? This is not the austere, harsh message. I think Francis in general is about love. And that is sort of the nature of his legend that people reflect on. So I don't think what he's saying to the birds is, you've been bad, you need to reform yourself. I think what he's saying is just, you're loved, and you should be, be your full person, be who you are, and be your full expression of a bird. I think that's probably something more like that. And so what I was getting was, you were kind of shying away again from the expansiveness that you did before in this section, on those little places. And remember, what I saw, piano, dolce. I think that applies to the whole section. If you just keep it piano, loving and gentle and intimate, and then don't be afraid to expand to make longer the upper notes of the descending seconds, which are typically quarter notes. Don't be afraid to take time in those. It's a good opportunity to be expressive. And then the tenutos under the slur in measure 56. Again, those, don't let them become angry. It's just like you're a little bit slowing down and they're a little bit more emphasis. But you don't have to prove a point here. It's not like you're trying to win an argument. That's not what it is. These are just, you're speaking some profound truth in love to these birds. And so the other thing I feared, and again, I can't always tell from the recording, when you got to measure 65, it sounded like the rest of it had been so loud that you had not very much left to go there. I would have held back more, or at least in general, I would hold back in volume until 60, like pick up to 65. That's the first time I start to get really louder. So you might play with that idea and see whether it gives a little bit more colorfulness to this whole section. Um, you know how to do what I'm talking about, and it's just like you don't have to do it my way, but I'm just trying to show you some of the options that you can explore, that you can use. I hope that is helpful.
That's fine. It's making me think that, oh yeah, I probably only played that section once or twice before I recorded it.
Yeah, that's maybe
Because
that's all it
I
is.
was spending a lot of time on trills and maybe not a lot of time
Understand?
on
I
other stuff.
look. I would rather err on the side of like giving too much respect to you and also exploring the ideas, because it's anything like that's an opportunity to get thoughtful and creative about your thoughts, about your ideas. Musicians are not just following instructions. We are creative people too, and we have lives and all that. So don't be scared of really, going back again and again for that rich experience of expressiveness that this music can engender. Um, yeah, and you could even make up words to it. You little birds, you should be happy. And now the pandemic is gonna come to an end. Something like that. Yeah. Don't worry, you're gonna be okay. It's all right now. And now look, you're gonna have a new child coming on the way. Whatever it is. Okay. So, but try to think more along sort of lines like that are encouraging and uplifting. I don't think it's the kind of sermon which is supposed to, like, you know what I'm talking about, which is try to manipulate people. That's not what this is. This is like Francis, and that, again, we talked about that. Why do people like Francis? Why do they love Francis? That's the kind of character. He was a non-establishment. The establishment are the ones who try to keep people down. Those are the powerful ones.
Right.
The street people and, hopefully the musicians are on the side of like trying to uplift people. That's what this is about. So anyway, we get through that, and I think that's all you need to fix in that part. I wanted to also talk about this place, the Solem, because again, maybe you didn't practice this one as much either, but I felt again it was you were lacking in passion in this place. It was rather steady. And I have some ideas for you also on this. But in general, it marks Solem. You remember I talked about this sort of topic, the idea that now this solemn thing is like this religious, it's like a vision or like an opening of the heavens, and like the heavenly chorus is singing, right? Something like that. And then when you get over to the maestoso, that also is another a very expressive kind of development of that idea. So that solemnity, but still it's like otherworldly. And the word that came to mind for me, and I'm going to probably put this in the chat for you. You probably know the word numinous. Are you familiar with that?
No.
No? All right. I'm going to put all this in here because this is what I came up with. Whether it's useful, I don't know, but I'm going to put it in there. Make sure you copy it and use it. What happened? Is it? No, it is. Crap. I screwed it up. Hold on a second. This chat thing. There it is. Yeah, I think we're okay. All right. Let's hope that comes through. There it is. So I gave you the Wikipedia article on numinous, which is short. And then I put in Mahler. I kept thinking of Mahler's First Symphony here.
Oh, Titan, right?
Yeah, you know that
as
one,
well.
but especially the last movement. But you know, obviously listen to the whole thing. But there's some standard romantic things, and again we talked about orchestra, where the trumpets and brass come in, and it's like this glorious fanfare. And I'm
Yeah.
feeling like I want that from you. I want you to be doing that here. And it's not just that. You're there when Lauren Mazel, I think it's Mazel, who's conducting on this YouTube that I sent you. At one point he does it dun 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 dun, dun right. He gives extra time. So it's just a little thing to kind of explore and maybe some sort of inspiration to share about this kind of a place. This would be a less developed place than the Mahler, but it still has that orchestral quality. And the numinous one, that article also talks about the there's work that people have done on religious contexts, but there's even drugs that people take that inspires a mind expanding experience. And so there's a lot of threads there that may be useful to think about when you're dealing with this kind of a place. It's a point of reference for some experience something big. I talked about the grandeur in nature at one point. This is related. When you're in a grand place, you get a kind of a mystical experience of being overwhelmed. And really, that's what Liszt is doing here. So even though it may seem a little hokey to us in some way, you got to really figure out how to go with it. And I think part of the thing is you cannot just play it steady. It's got to be kind of slow and paced and solemn. And then when you get to the loud part, you also have to pace it carefully, and there's organicness to it. It's not just da 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 bum do 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 do. You cannot just do steady. It's got to be really rubatoized. And these are gestures. Let's see. Something, but you see, like I'm messing with it. I'm not just going steady.
Yeah.
And it's not a huge. You don't have to do a huge amount, but there's got to be something going on, like you rhetorically. The rhetoric. It's like there's like the heavenly chorus is responding to the sermon, and it's coming from afar. It's like, you know, and so it's that doesn't just happen every day. That's like it's you can't just look for it on YouTube. It's a and then the other thing I wanted to mention is measure 79 to 80. Again, your playing is sounding good, but it's just like it just doesn't have a lot of this concept behind it. Measure 79 and 80. Just make sure it's good, but just make sure you keep it legato and warm in your left hand, so that when you get to the next section, the pianissimo stuff, to my ears and my thinking, that pianissimo stuff is kind of cool. It's like cooling off moment. And remember, it's gentle. That whole 1, 2, 3, 4 measures, 70, 80, 81 through 84. Quiet, gentle. There's a hairpin, but it's just a small one. Gentle, quiet. There's nothing, you're not trying to make a point. You're just gently leading us through the next section. It's like Virgil leading Dante through Purgatory, whatever it is. Okay, and then then the next section we went over that already. Yeah. And then the same sort of thing here. Pick up to 116. There's nothing written, but you can do a little bit of ritardando going into 116. And every time that happens, the end of measure 118, you can take a little time at the end. Ba 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 bum, ya da 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 da, and so on. Every time there's a harmony change, make more rhetorically out of it. Again, it's the rhetoric that's important here, not the literal marking. It's understanding how to kind of shape a phrase. And then when I got to measure 124 and that following stuff, again, I felt it was kind of, I wrote don't rush, but it was more just like you kept barreling forward. And that's sort of okay, but remember, it's like somebody singing. You can't just kind of go through. There's like an effort. And I thought, I'd looked at, the White Walkers from Game of Thrones?
No, them, but
Well, I don't know much about them, but somebody mentioned, so I looked
they're
it up.
like cold zombies.
Yeah, something like that, but they're more kind of thoughtful than zombies. But apparently they were based on ice giants, which is an old legend from the Norse mythology over 1,000 years ago. Of course, that translates in different ways, but I read it again when I'm in this place. I'm listening. I'm thinking of giants. I want the giant. It's like all the other heavenly hosts is kind of they've left, but the giants you still see them stomping away somewhere. I kind of want to. We've had a profound thing here, and you cannot rush through this. Really, you should slow down going through measure 124, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
Don't
I think the
milk it,
last.
milk it for the total, expressivity that it has.
Yeah,
It's
I
easy.
think last time I was adding way too much space in between phrases, so I kind of swung too far in the other direction, maybe.
Whatever, I don't know, but you can see the point is when you're doing rhetoric, he writes in accents. That's a clue.
Right.
Yeah. Bum 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 ba bum 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 ba You see, you play it over in your mind like an actor speaking your lines, and then you figure out the shape of it to make sense of it. So it's sure that there isn't a meaning. There's no words, but it's the next level of still. There has to be an internal meaning musically to the line. So because it's recitative like, you're not forced to keep steady. It's really this the value is the note values is part of the rhetoric. The next part, yeah, it's all right. But and then in measure 139, could you just play measure 139 to 40, or maybe start earlier, maybe at the key change, just to get through that, maybe hear that whole section anyway, just to see what's going on with you, and then maybe just a little bit we can work on.
Oh wait, I heard that.
All right, so in measures 137 and 138, you have two layers. You have the melody and then the chords underneath. So really the only place where that's real portato and anything is the melody. It's not the chords. So there's no real lift on the chords. But then when you get to 139, of course, you have the portato in the alto part, going duet with the soprano. And then the tenor in the left hand is legato. It's not portato. So when you do portato, it has a way of sticking out a little bit from the texture. So when you have legato, it's much more contained, and sort of a little more background. So that's where you take the time. Whatever. But I just want to make sure that you figured out how to move your hands responding to the various types of touch without adding I just want it to be a little more worked through when I'm hearing it. Again, it's not bad. It just somehow needs a little more care. I guess loving care. Then the next section. Yeah, can you just play the dolcissimo? Pick up to measure 140, 141. And I guess I want to hear what you're doing with the rubato in those two measures. Well, the second phrase, it's like question and answer or call and response. The second one, if anything, the expansiveness of the tenuto quarter note should be greater than the first one. Dum bum bum ba bum 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 bum. Right? So what you did was the one that goes up, and then the very very deep peaceful one on the second one. See, that's that expressiveness that we talked about, like with the Gregorian chant guy. It's the same thing. We need to have those subtleties happening. And I really think just just pay attention how much you're stretching those quarter notes. That would be a good place to start. Really get more kind of intellectual control over the music. And I want you to try it again. See if you can just follow what I was suggesting and maybe at least imitate what I did. Whether you ultimately do it that way, but I want to hear. I think that's going to help you a lot. I think that's kind of what you need, and then you got to sort of get in the mood, right, for that. So it's like making sure you're paying attention to the character that comes with allowing the silence to proceed, and it's going to really help you in your, in you managing that spot. So that's really good, and it's the same with all these. Of course, there's that place where he puts the fermata. Um, Then measure 152 in the left hand, where you have the trill. It's irritating, but he puts stems going down, so there is a melody.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of the things that was really off balance when I came back from vacation. I haven't quite.
I mean, it's just a tiny little detail, but it's something. It's pretty good.
I know it's there.
You're struggling with the trills at the end, but again, I think you're as long as it's bothering you, you're going to be okay. As long as you stay on the path. Don't.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the dwarfs in the Hobbit. They're going through the forest. Whatever you do, don't leave the path. Of course, they're going to leave the path. So. Stay on the path through the end. Do we have more lessons coming? We're doing another one at some point?
Yeah. I was gonna ask because now it's September.
Oh, yeah.
Or yeah, next week it's gonna be September. So I wasn't sure if you just wanted to I mean I'm available for the month as far as I know. Um, October is where things I think are going to get dicey because that's when a baby might appear. Um, and but I can at least commit through September as far as I can tell.
Okay. Then let's just plan on that. I haven't really come up with my schedule for the fall yet.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
other thing I
so
was wondering.
yeah, no, for sure. The the Monroe Center for the Arts is talking about having a hybrid opening, and there's going to be a meeting of the musicians next week. So, you know, I think we have the option of not doing it. That's kind of where I am anyway. I think I don't want to do it. I think people are still transmitting the disease, and I just kind of don't want to be in the middle of it.
Yeah, especially once schools open up too.
So anyway, Sure.
thanks for all that. Thanks for putting me through the ringer.
Yeah, you've already been through it, and you see it's like more and more fine refinement. But I think you also, because you hadn't had a lesson in a while, it's probably part of the issue. It's like there were some things that you know how to do. It's just like you really, really, and it was just the simple stuff. It's the thoughtful stuff. Physically, technically simple, but the thoughtfulness, that needs to be more. So anyway, keep going.
All right,
Take
I'll see you
care.
next week.